Mhm. Mhm.
All right, I will
I get my posture sorted.
okay, yes. All right. All right, I think we are live. So welcome everybody to Better Together, running a comics anthology with the wonderful Tab Kimpton and Ollie Hicks. Tab Kimpton has been a LGBT plus webcomic artist since 2006 with works such as Chaos Comics, Sir Butler and Boy, and Infernal Relations. He has worked on co-editor and producer, running 6 successful crowdfunding campaigns for queer and trans-focused body-positive erotica anthologies under the name Discord Comics. And Ollie Hicks is a Black Butch comics creator and editor. They have a PhD in comic studies from the University of Dundee. They picked up an Eisner Award nomination for their work on The Ballad of Halo Jones, full color omnibus edition, and more recently co-edited Succulent, trans-inclusive sapphic erotic comics with Tad Kimpton and Nikki Smith. They are also a prolific comics creator, best known for writing the Grand Slam romance graphic novel trilogy drawn by their wife, Emma Ostenhaus. And for everyone who has joined us today in the chat, there'll be questions taken at the end, so make sure to save them for then so we can see them a bit easier. And there are captions available through Zoom and I believe also through YouTube. But I will let them take it from here.
Hi, thank you for such a wonderful introduction. Um, and thank you everyone who's joined us today. This is Better Together, running a comics anthology. So of course it is better the more of you there are. Um, Ollie, you're in charge of the PowerPoint, so you're going to have to let us know what we talk about next.
All right. Well, I'm just repeating what Alexis has already read out for us, really kindly. But yeah, this is our bios. This is who we are. I guess it's also the moment where if there's anything extra you want to add to the bios, we add them. But I
Yeah,
think
though
that sums.
it occurs to me that it might be nice to talk about what we've worked on together. Like we've mentioned Succulent, but not too much about what it is. So I think we met at Thought Bubble maybe a couple years ago. Um, and Nikki I worked
Recording
with.
in progress.
Nikki I worked with um, uh, on the Come Together, my first anthology. So it was really nice to bring her back in to make something like this. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think I got the gig in a really annoying way by opening up one of the books and spotting a typo, and that was my on the dot, on the spot audition.
Yeah.
And you were like, you can come on board. But
Uh,
yeah, so the we should probably move on. But sort of the way it kind of started was this sort of call we had where we knew it was going to be a sapphic anthology, and we sort of started working out what we wanted that to look like, and also to a lesser extent what we wanted working with each other to sort of look like, sort of like you and Nikki kind of going from what had worked for you in the past and sort of like trying to envision what the process would look like and how we would all
mm,
get along.
yes, Nikki was someone who we're really fortunate to have on board for the first time. Bless her, with the oven kind of legal stuff I needed to put in place. Um, but yeah, so the first thing that's looking at our beautiful PowerPoint, the first thing that happened was doing an open submissions process. So some people do anthologies where they just pick their friends and then go for it. But I quite like the open call element. It feels fairer. Like I know comics have big problems with nepotism from an editor point. You're going to a lot more things to figure out who you're going to work with. Um, and it's not that you're going through lots of stuff and it's all crap. It's you're going through amazing, beautiful work, being like, how do I pick 10 of these, you know?
I think we
Um,
had something like, was it almost 100 entries, or
yeah, yeah, about
was it
tracks, yeah.
was it
So
about 90 plus?
really. really long Zoom call, like Discord call, um, and figuring out how to objectively decide together what ones you're going to pick is really difficult. Um, Especially because people put a lot of work into putting a submission in. Uh, we did do a rating system. So each editor picked on a scale of 1 to 9 how much they would fight to have this comic in the anthology, um, uh, as a way to just get like an easy ranking to go through. But we also did a couple of things like you get really fatigued when you're going through that many submissions. So making sure that we each all started from a different place instead of starting from the same entry all the way through. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that something that really helped with Succulent was sort of, and making what made that decision so, who was going to be in the anthology, was that we had done our work before as editors and we had a vision of what we wanted the anthology to be. We had a brief which people could then respond to. So I put up a rough version of the brief that ended up on the Kickstarter as part of the copy. And from an editorial point of view, it's like if you don't know what your anthology, if you don't have any idea at all of what your anthology, what kind of things you'd
Mm.
like to see in your anthology, how is anyone else supposed to like sort of really respond to that? And as
Mm.
a artist, like if the editors are just like really vague and don't have any sort of ideas for what it is they want to do, like how are you supposed to kind of like really nail into that? So we sort of wrote this copy together about like what kind of like we kind of did a lot of thinking about what Sapphic meant for us, what being trans inclusive meant for us, what succulent the word meant for us, like what all the different ways that they could play out.
Mm.
Wrote some copy, which then became sort of like the not the Bible, but like the Rosetta Stone. Like it was our code that we went by because that was something that then becomes your marketing copy. Like you use it for your artist submissions, it becomes your marketing copy. It eventually becomes the I'm used to calling it a blurb, but that's not what you call it in the US. What do you call the back copy? The back cover copy for your anthology. Like it sort of becomes that thing that guides you through each
Mm.
step and sort of helps you sort of think, is something responding to the themes of what I would like to see? And then it helps you sort of think about what gaps there are. Like I remember when we were going through the submissions, and also as editors we also got to write stories and like submit stuff. And I think for me, and I feel like Nikki and you, we all sort of ended up making our own stories responding to something that we felt was missing from the submissions that we had. Like something that we just wanted to just like make sure that we had filled that own personal niche gap
Hmm.
in the audience. And
Mm.
I feel like that is something that for me worked really well, is that starter copy. And if I could pass on any advice to editors thinking about making an anthology, it'd be like, get yourself sorted, get your house in order, get like spend some time actually thinking about it. You want people to invest weeks of their life making something for you, weeks of their life over a period of months to a year. You need to spend a bit of time up front thinking about what it is you want them to be working on, and that also gives you higher quality submissions. Sorry, I've talked for ages, Tab.
No, let me think. We haven't mentioned that Succulent ended up being a plant themed anthology. I would describe sometimes the anthologies that I work on being over themed. So it becomes sort of like niche. So it's not so I've done a non-binary anthology that was science like sci-fi themed. Um and Ambrosia, which was a transmasc non-binary erotica anthology, was the theme was food of the gods. So we had lots of gods mythology, that kind of thing. I think it's easy to just be like, okay, I'm going to do an anthology about this. Um, Something that we'll talk about it later, but something that puts me off on other like anthologies is when I look at it and it's too vague. And I really struggle to come up with an idea for that. And I think actually, while you're cutting off people in some ways by like doing a very specific theme, that art with a bit of restraints actually gets the ball running sometimes, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. is there anything else we want to talk about on this
No,
list, or are
that's
we happy
good.
to move on?
Should I just
Okay, so
say
that's what,
next? Like,
yeah, that's what worked for us. Something
yeah.
else, some more stuff that worked for us, was we had the option that you could go come in as like a solo creator or as a team and be like, this is our story, this is what we want to do. But also you had the option of being like, I'm a writer, this is my story, but I don't have an artist. And you had the option of being like, I'm an artist, I don't have a story, but I want a writer.
Mm.
And we then on the stories that we accepted from writers who didn't have artists, we then got to pair them with artists, which was sort of like a fun dating thing.
Yes, yeah. It's a tricky one to figure out how to make sure I just want to step back a couple of things
Oh yeah.
before I move completely into that. Um, One thing I've found in previous anthologies is submissions. Sometimes you'll get an amazing artist that their story idea, like just maybe isn't as good, not as unique, or you're not quite sure how it fits with the theme of the anthology. Or you would have artists who work maybe quite isn't there, but they've got a really cool idea. Um, and that's why I started thinking about maybe doing artists and writers pairing instead to sort of get that best of both worlds. But the problem is like, how do you make sure that you just don't, that people actually want to draw what script you've given them? Uh, and that's hard because I do think being a comic artist, you do have an element of scripting in how you panel things. So you've really got to be on board with it. So we had this thing of basically, I think it's that we went through, picked what artists we thought. No, it's I wrote script summaries of all of the scripts we'd accepted and artists that were sort of on our artist pairing waiting list. Um, then got to say if they were interested in those stories. And then we like cross-reference that and then got the script writers to say rate their top three artists who wanted to work with them. And it was convoluted, but that meant that everyone was happy with the comic that they got. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Um,
there was an element where I think, suggested five artists for I felt like there was an editorial step where we like
yes, it was
we shortlisted artists
uh
to then be sent the script. I feel like that was something that happened, but this
yeah, it
was
was the
like
in
3 years ago
between
now.
stage. It was after we've gotten all of the artists to say if they wanted to do something, we did sort of ask ourselves, do we as editors think their style works with this story? Like our favorites there. Especially when you've got sort of 10 or 20 options. You don't want to just bombard a script writer, really. Yeah.
I think
Um,
that like it worked, I think, really well. I mean, I chose a piece of art from Invasive Species because I feel like that was one that where like they really seemed to click as a team.
mm,
Um, and I think we got quite positive feedback, I think, throughout the process, honestly, from writers and creators and artists that we were working with, that they either were enjoying, that they were actively enjoying working on the anthology, which I think as editors
mm,
is sort of like really nice to hear from the teams that they're
yeah.
actually enjoying it. They're enjoying feedback. They're enjoying working with people you've sort of kind of guided them towards working with. And
Mm,
then the comics kind of end up speaking for themselves when they sort of like click. And there's
mm.
obviously like some chemistry there in the way the art and the writing are working together.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate not having any falling out. Uh, yes, and I think I did ask people whether they wanted feedback via the editors or just direct contact with each other.
Yes.
Yeah, um, because you can imagine like the idea of like, oh, you get a really picky script writer or something, or particularly like a picky is a bit of a harsh statement, someone who hasn't worked in comics as much before, who doesn't know how to say what they want in a way that an artist can understand concisely. Uh, but yeah, so we've been very fortunate so far.
I think as
Yeah,
editors, like you kind of always want to be that shield for people. Like you
Mm,
are shielding, if you're in a more corporate environment, you're shielding the artists and the creators from like upper management. If you're in
mm,
an independent situation, you're pairing people up, you are making sure that there's like, if there's any sort of disputes like that, that you are kind of there. So that's why you sort of ask people if they're okay sharing those details, because sometimes people may mind. I do think that editors, my experience working with editors as an artist, that editors love to cut people out of the, love to, if there's not as right team, they always err on the side of caution of like separating you and sort
mm.
of communicating differently, which I work a lot with my wife. So I'm always like, no, it's fine. Like you don't need to, we have co-written the emails we're sending to you. So
Mhm.
yeah, I feel like there's always like an element of common sense about it. But like, yeah, I think there's that element of just like managing relations. A lot of editorial work is managing relationships, and that's
Mm.
sort of where feedback on submissions sort of kind of comes in as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Is
absolutely.
your if somebody's not submitting this time, that doesn't mean that they're not going to work with you in the future.
Mm.
So when if somebody's submission doesn't quite hit the mark and they ask for feedback on it, you don't go in like Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator and just write a bunch of horrible things and be mean to people, because like also they're a person. So the feedback on the submissions that we actually spent, I feel like I spent quite a bit of time writing feedback on the submissions and being like and spending a lot of time trying to be kind
Yes.
and considerate and like encouraging, because this was
Yeah.
feedback on submissions for people who did not get into the anthology.
Yes. So what we did was everyone got a pretty standard, sorry, you're not in this anthology email, or sorry, you're on the wait list. We'll let you know if someone drops out, with optional feedback. Um, uh, and it has to be constructive. But I'm also very aware that a lot of the feedback we have was specifically for basically me telling people your illustrations are absolutely fantastic, but we are an erotica anthology, so more experience in doing comics is the sort of thing we would be looking for in a portfolio, like, and that depends on whether that's what you want to do with your life. Not all of us want to do this with our lives.
Are we ready to move on? I think we're
Yeah,
gonna start
yeah.
talking about some of the more wait, no, we still got some positives to say. So, basically just as our process worked, some stuff that worked for our sort of like pipeline of work was and I think like also because people generally think, what do editors do all day? And this is what we did all day. We spent on the decision days, we would spend 3 hours, 4 hours on that call. Like it, I won't, very early on, we were gonna like log how many hours we're actually working on the anthology, and we had to give up because, especially at the beginning, it was just hours and hours and hours. And free editors seems like a lot of editors, but that allows for everybody to have different moments where they bleep off the map and like need to deal with life stuff and don't have the wavelength to be doing stuff, and maybe don't have an hour that they want to spend proofreading something that they've already read 5 times over. So having free editors meant that we were kind of able to move that load around and help out and jump in as different people kind of needed it. But also we did all have like joint commitments where we did basically a weekly editorial meeting that we tried to keep to an hour, but on big days it could easily go to 2 hours, and on the huge submission days it was like, I feel like it was 3 hours plus on the submission days. It was a big one. Then uh Dropbox, a lot of oh, we also did
Yeah,
sorry, we
like
also had
one of the things that saved us a lot of time was using Dropbox. So we would make a PDF or receive a PDF of like sketches or something, and one of us could go through and put all of our notes on it. And then the other people could go through and add their notes too. My preference is that all of the editors should make their notes before the artist sees it, because what if we disagree? And though that comment just needs to be axed, I think it's better. Saves time, and also it means that you're not all looking at the notes, making the same note, and then all having to enter that in. Um, and that brings us to our middle point, which is when you're working on a big anthology like this and people are sending you ginormous PSD files. um, someone's got to pay for some kind of storage solution. Uh,
And yeah,
yeah, so
it sucks,
Dropbox
but someone's
or
got to do it.
yeah, someone's got to do it. Also, I have a pretty reasonable desktop, but some of the rigs these artists are running, the file sizes I have been sent, like someone sending their entire 20-page comic on one file, and my computer's like as it opens it up. Yeah, so unfortunately, there's a bit of investment there, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I think if um editing an anthology is something that you want to do, you need to think about an online storage solution and just pay for it. And that's just like a cost that you can take out of your tax at the end of the year as an expense. But that is something to consider if you're doing an anthology. Comics are huge. It's like comics are just huge files, and everybody works differently. And as comics, we hate to be sort of standardized, but a lot of us don't know how to set up file management, don't know proper file management. So you sort of have to work around because it is like file management is something that you sort of don't get ever really taught. Um, and so there's a lot of messy file management out there. And,
Mm. Hmm.
we are really in the weeds of file management discussion now. But like, yeah, it's something to think about. If you're going to edit
Okay,
something,
I
storage.
remember in Come Together we tried organizing it by okay, we'll put all of the inks in here, like all of the colors in here and everything like that. Didn't work. Just one folder for every artist, and if they also have a good Dropbox account, you can co-share it with them as well. So uh, that seemed to keep it roughly organized. Yeah, shall we move
Right.
on?
Yeah, so here's some problems.
Yeah.
So number one, if you enter an FRG, someone's got to take financial responsibility. I feel like I run around talking a big game, but Tab does all the hard labor of finance and Dropbox and Kickstarter, and it's just like, and I'm just like la 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 la, and like, oh, you drew a really pretty flower, way! Oh, look at that squirt, and Tab's like actually like,
Yes, because so I'm quite so first anthology I did, people took a risk on me about whether we'd be able to do it, whether I would be able to pay out, that sort of thing. Fortunately, um I've got uh the savings literally like to uh be able to cover artist payments now if an anthology ever didn't fund. And that is quite special. Not every anthology could do that. And I think it does mean people are more willing to take a risk to work for me. However, it is a big financial risk that I take on in a project. Uh, uh, but we're doing it because we want to make these things happen, right? Um, and like because it's that thing of like, yes, even if it's sort of like a fanzine or something like that, the second money gets involved, you've got to have a level of structure or like write out um in contracts who gets what happens, specifically what happens if someone has to drop out of the anthology, how long copyright. So for my anthologies, it's just that I want the copyright for a year so I can bring it out, and I kind of have the perpetual rights to print the book itself, but not individual people's comics. Um, and I also do royalties on like post sales. So decided to do that. It's I won't get into the like what the royalties numbers are. But these are all things to think about. And I would say, as someone who's doing my yearly like royalty statements out to people, it is a big admin thing. If you can just try and pay more money up front and avoid royalties, especially if it's a small anthology, I would encourage you to do that because keeping track of sales and percentages is like that extra step. You also need to write into contracts if you are doing anything like royalties. When are you going to stop doing them, if ever? Because I never wrote that in Come Together, my first one. So I guess I just keep going until I no longer do things. So there we go.
Until it's out of
Uh,
print.
Say that again, Ollie.
Until it's out of print. Like
Until it's
when it
out of print, I suppose, until all the books are sold. But obviously there's like PDFs and things. Me like
Mm.
emailing the once a year to be like, hello, you can claim 10 pence for one one come together as sold. Yeah. Oh, it's funny
Um,
stuff.
I think that when you are first starting your sort of journey, more serious journey into comics, contracts and legal stuff seems really scary. It seems like especially if you're making an anthology with your friends, you're like, why would I need a contract? You should always get a contract if you like. I have a collaboration agreement with my wife. Like, like I was made to
That's
by my agent.
amazing. I
No, my agent made us sign one. But like I do think those are really, really important because people fall out.
Mm,
um People get ill, people can't do stuff, like who is responsible for stuff, like people like, and it doesn't mean that you then get to be like, daddy warbox and like boss everybody around. And like I think we often have stuff where people ask if they can reprint comics that are in anthologies like a little bit ahead of the 1 year thing, and
mm,
like it's not like you're a hard line of like, no, wait a year. Like it's because like we're all independent comics,
mhm.
we're all independents. Like what we
Yeah.
want is to make comics and to make things fair. That's why Tab does the 10p royalty statement every year, because we want to make comics as fair and equitable as possible. That's why we're sort of like making
Mhm.
it from an independent standpoint. But
But it's
you
also
should
stuff
protect yourself.
like some people when they sign a contract, they don't know that they're signing away like all rights in other languages and things like that. So
Mhm.
my contracts say um if someone offers to publish this in another language, we'll renegotiate, you know? So you would have to email everyone who was in that anthology, ask, can we use your comic for this? You will get this percentage of sales. This is what's being offered. And if you don't get an agreement, it's just that the anthology, they get cut out of that, you know, and the rest of the book with everyone else goes through. That's your alternative. All right, we've been in
And as
royalty
a
contract
yeah, and
hell for a
as
while. What you got?
sorry, so what was that?
Hmm? What were you saying?
Sorry, I end up cutting off what you said. But at the end of what you said, I was saying like as an artist as well, read your contracts, and an editor shouldn't really be asking for like the IP of your project,
Mm,
especially like in an indie. Like if you're working for Marvel, then yeah, they're gonna ask for the IP. But like if you're working for just like Joe Blogs down the street, why does he want your IP? Like why does he want film rights? Like that all should remain with you.
mm,
And you're an independent comics artist. Like that is don't be giving away your IP. Like just don't do
mm,
it. Like especially on an
mhm.
independent comic project. What do they want with that?
Yeah. Also, a lot of people don't know you can actually argue points in contracts.
Hmm.
Just to be like, oh, what's this point mean? Just ask. It might be that no one's ever asked. Um, and it might be that it'll get something clarified that'll be better for everyone else that comes along. Yeah.
Okay.
Shall we move on? We're
Let's move
about half
on.
past now to give you a time idea.
We'll be running over just like I said we wouldn't. So other stuff that can be problems is personal life stuff. This always happens, especially like a comics anthology happens over a long period of time. Like I think, um, I don't know. I don't feel like I've ever known a comics anthology last less than 8 months, and that's
Yeah.
like that's like at the speed of light that's coming out.
Hmm.
Normally, it's a
Hmm.
year upwards of a year, and over
Hmm.
the course of a year, upwards of a year, like people fall ill, people get divorced, people move house, people's cats die, like all this stuff can happen, and so people are gonna miss their deadlines. Or you could fall out with some of your co-editor. That's up to us. That's not a reason Nikki isn't here today. But like we're all friends still. But like stuff just happens, and so
Yeah.
people do miss deadlines, and you
Yeah.
just need
Like
to
I
be.
love comics, but there's more important things in life sometimes. And if you're an artist, the one thing I would say is just tell us, please. Like just let us know as soon as you can. That's all we want. Uh, because I guess here's a thing to think about if you're running an anthology. Are you going to launch a Kickstarter, um, and then like get your artists to make the work, or are you going to make the work and then launch? Sometimes it's sort of an in between. Um, my preference is to be done, because I've definitely had one artist like holding up a print run before. And when I've got backers and people like, we paid you money, why will you not launch? I find that so stressful. So I prefer to be all done. But from an artist's point of view, having to wait for everyone else to complete a project means it's going to take you longer to get your payment from things like Kickstarter. So I can understand why you'd be cautious of a project that has to be all done and you see nothing until launch day. Like I think you said the other day, Ollie, that comics is so much about planting seeds and then you get a payment in a year, 2 years time. Yeah.
Yeah. So something to deal with artists not delivering on time, which is absolutely something that will happen. The vast majority of artists that do not deliver on time, it'll happen once to twice a project. So it'll be like, hey, I'm really sorry, something's happened. I'm gonna need extra week, or I'm gonna need extra couple weeks. And it happens once or twice. They deliver the work. Everything's fine. Like, and when you're building your timeline, you need to be thinking, will like people aren't gonna deliver on time all the time. And the vast majority of people are going to communicate really quickly, efficient, or even if they don't communicate quickly and efficiently, they're still going to hand something in. It does help as an editor to to do check-ins on people, and that is a way that you can start flagging before deadlines pass who is on track and who you need to worry about. Because if you send an
Mm.
email saying, "Hey, is everything okay?" and you don't get a response, then that person is automatically on your watch list and you don't have to
Yes,
wait,
yeah.
3 days after the deadline to be like, oh, that's a problem. Something's
Hmm.
gone wrong there. Like you will
Yeah.
already be sort of be on it.
Yeah, I think we run about a week before deadline, send out an email and ask if anyone needs any extensions because that encourages people to sort of get in contact with you. Um, the other point we got in this thing about which says focus on getting inks, not finished pages, it's that when someone starts being really behind, it is easier for us to get some help by coloring, lettering, that kind of stuff. So what tends to happen is an artist go like, oh, I'm behind. I'll just deliver inks and colors at the same time, and it just creates this enormous backlog that keeps going and going and going. Um, what is better is if we can get like all of the inks from one person, and then maybe we can hire a flatter to start helping when we're ready to get the colors in. But what I've had in previous things is I think it was someone became ill, and what I had was like 10 beautifully rendered pages that no one could hope to match, and then three sketches. What do you do with that? And I've become very good at copying other people's artwork, which is is an advantage if you're an editor that if someone has to drop out for whatever reason, if you can ask, can I step in and uh, like finish this comic off so we can use it in the anthology, or is it that you're out, like are you just going to take this comic and finish it and sort of launch it on your own? Um, so I feel very fortunate that I have some artist skills to be able to do that. But if you're gonna run a comic anthology and you're just a writer, it does put you at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I think that's something that you gotta take on. You're gonna take a financial hit with the flat in, so just have that safety net of a pot safety net of like if you can of like for money for a flatter, or if you're an editor who can also do art stuff, but that's also as a time hit. So, for example, both me and Nikki were busy with other projects the entire time. Like we were doing Succulent like in the evenings. I was doing it after work and late at night on a weekend. So like we just did not have the time to like help out with flatting art drawing. So that meant that all that stuff then kind of started end up falling on you tab. And like, that also then affects how much stuff, how many late artists we can like
Mm,
footprints along the
mhm,
sand help to the finish
mhm.
line.
Yeah.
If it's like it's sort of your time as well, like and like if you had like a full-time day job, you would not have been able to have
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
provided that.
Yeah.
So it's just something to think about. I'm gonna move us
Mm,
on to another
mhm.
slide. So some more problems. Tabby will speak much more about this one. The problem
Oh,
of
like
trying to launch your
Kickstarter
not.
can't decide how it feels about not safe for work projects and things.
Mhm.
Currently, some are being approved, but one of the Cartoonist United campaigns just gone. They couldn't get theirs approved on Kickstarter, and so they had to move to a different platform. This does put me off. I don't feel as secure for the next project that I could do all of that, get the artists, get the comic pages, things like that, and then make a Kickstarter thing, try and launch it, and Kickstarter go, no, actually. So that's scary stuff. But uh, the cynical part of me thinks that being like banned from Kickstarter would be a fantastic ad campaign, but uh, yeah, it's scary. But risk, right? Without risk, there is no reward and whatnot.
I mean, there's other ways that you can do it. You can try and do people have run pre-orders on like Big Cartel or like there's Indiegogo. There are like other
Yeah,
platforms
or
and
you could
stuff,
just
but
make the PDF. So it runs onto the what happens if you don't fund? Do you
Mhm.
sort of recalculate and then relaunch? Or do you put the PDF up on like itch.io, try and raise money through that? I've got in my contracts that if we don't fund, please give me a year to get the money together through those kinds of sales, and then I will pay it to you. Um, I really like this point. What if you do fund though? How are you going to ship that? Yeah, it's important uh, to run some basic figures of how much does a book cost? How much does it cost to send a book in the US to someone in Europe, to someone in the UK, to someone in Australia? Like hit your if you're doing an English speaking anthology, hit your English speaking countries up for like how much that'll cost, and then give yourself a how much money do I have to make to pay all the people that I'm promising to pay them? Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move us along. So for artists, we got some advice about if you're thinking about submitting to an anthology, how to strengthen your pitch. So the number one thing, and this is something that like I learned when I was a creative writing student and think about pitching to magazines and stuff. The number one thing you should always do if you want to do anything is read the guidelines and submit what they want to see, like what they're asking for. So if they ask you to send comics, send them comics. If it's so, for example, a real big one on this one, like one of the number one reasons people didn't get in was because on Succulent, we were like, this is the theme, and people sent us stuff that wasn't on the theme at all. Like was like and like I know like, plants is a really broad theme. Like you could really take liberties with plants, and people were like writing stuff that just didn't have anything to do with any kind of plants. And we have stories in that anthology with people in like wasteland deserts, which is fine because there's a plant, a plot relevant plant at some point. And we were very open, like you can have succulents, you can have like cacti, like go off. But people were just writing stuff where it was like nothing to do with plants at all, and like no, or like the way the interaction with plants was just like, oh, they walk through a forest, and it was like, okay, well, we want something a bit more
Mm,
engaged with it than
mhm.
that, and it was felt like it was like almost like they had had that pitch from a different anthology,
Oh,
and
true.
were just sort of like, and if you feel like, everybody wants to feel special. If you feel
Mm,
like someone's just got this pitch and they're just like sending it around to every single anthology that's open,
mm, mhm.
you're like, if you can't be bothered to read what I've put out there, why would I want to work with you?
Yes.
Um, like,
A point that I thought earlier when we were talking about setting up the panel in your th sorry, setting up the anthology in your theme about, I think you were very much like, we've got an idea of what this anthology is going to be like. I actually feel like until I read those submissions, the anthology gets made. You realize the theme of the anthology through the submissions you gather. Um, uh, yeah, that's all I had on that one.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Like it is like it's not just like we're like this is the theme and then the artists will go, here you go, and you go, they're great. Like it is like it's a collaboration. Like editing is a collaboration. And that's something to remember is that editors are another collaborator for you.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
like as editors, we are collaborating with artists and writers. Like we are not the
Mm.
behemoth demigods. Like we
Mm.
are just like I mean they are the talent, and we're just like trying to shepherd and guide and like collaborate and make something cool.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
Something else, a really
Yeah.
basic one is if you're pitching something, don't be self-deprecating. Oh no, yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
don't be
It's that like,
self-deprecating.
don't say your idea is bad in the pitch because we'll believe you. Like, oh, but it's dear, but it's
Like,
so like
and
so.
And that goes for just general online, just general your own portfolio online. Do not be like, hey, here's this artwork I did, it's shit. Like, just don't say that.
Mm.
Like, you did it, you're sharing it, it's fine, it's good. Believe in yourself because if you don't believe in yourself, at least to fake it online, it isn't actually professional. It just straight up isn't professional. And
Mm.
do you want to and like, what's the chances then you're gonna be like, hey, here's this anthology, please give it some money, my piece of shit. But like, don't do
Mm.
that. Like, be
Mhm.
professional, be proud of the work you do. If like, just be proud of yourself.
Yeah,
Also
I
in your
think
pitch,
that's, oh, sorry,
sorry,
that's
no.
point really linked into our third point here. Submit work you want to do more of. Like, don't be
Hmm.
like, there's this anthology. I'm going to submit this style of comic making that I don't actually like, but everyone wants this from me. If you only submit what you think other people want and not the artwork that you like to make, you're just going to have a bad time. So submit stuff that you're like, this is the type of work I want to be doing, actually. Yeah. So consider tailoring your portfolio to that anthology and be like, I want to make a comic that looks a bit like this for this story. What were you going to say, Ollie?
I was gonna sort of lead into our fourth point, but also, yeah, touch on something else, which is that short stories need less plot. Me and Tab slightly disagreed about this when we planned out the talk, but I would, because I'm very much like, if it's not safe for work, get straight to the good stuff, and you're like, well, it should be world building.
No, we need
But
to
like,
yearn.
there should
We
be
need to
character work.
yearn.
Um, but I do think that like, what I don't want is like, you've got Frank Herbert June levels of lore going on for like a 10-page comic that also has to have like some bang a lang a ding dong going on. Like, just do not do that. Like, shorten it down. Think about something like really small and like sort of work. Like, the idea has to be like quite small and to the point for a short
Hmm.
story.
Yes.
Also, when you write that pitch, give us the ending of the pitch. Do not be like, and then they fine. Like, and I am
Yeah.
that person. I
Mm.
hate giving away the endings and synopsis because I feel like it sounds pretty weak. But like, and that's my own self-deprecation, which I shouldn't be doing online. But like,
Yeah,
you
because people
should.
say do elevator pitch, but what does that
Hmm.
mean? Like, because you're not actually doing elevator pitch. Elevator pitch is that like intrigue, two lines kind of thing. What you actually want to put in an anthology is these are the characters. This is the setup that they're in. This is the thing that's intriguing or interesting. Here's any like twists or things, and this is the conclusion I'm gonna put. Um, it really goes against everything, like letting that ending be known. But as an editor, I've definitely gone through stories and been like, this could end like this, and this could end like that. And if it's like that, I don't want it. So you got to tell me. You got to let us know.
I think that also helps you when you're like then writing it. If you've written like all this synopsis and it's just too much, like that's gonna be really difficult for you to edit down into a satisfying
Mm.
story. So like focus on like, a 500 word synopsis, like, like something quite like max, like something that's quite short, like one page, like, if you think about it, if you're pitching a graphic novel to a publisher, your synopsis of a whole graphic novel is 2 pages. So think about how much longer a graphic novel is than like a 10-page
Hmm.
story and like edit it down. Like you really want it to be about like a paragraph, 2 paragraphs submissions for a short story for an anthology. I'm gonna move us along.
Hmm.
What if you get rejected? Worst case scenario. I mean, um, a question is to sort of think about going forward to other pitches. Did you follow the submission guidelines? Like, if they asked for, you know, a pitch and they asked for, 3 images and one A4 page of script, did you send them like 17 pages, A4 pages of script and like one, like no images? And did you did you actually follow what people are asking for? Like, when I think when I was a baby writer, I would always feel like, oh, more is more. But it isn't like, and less isn't
Mm,
more either.
yeah.
Following what is asked for is the
Yeah.
more. Like, just like don't overthink it. Just do what people ask you to do.
Hmm. Yes, we've put in here, which is a hard point, but the submissions form is a litmus test for how easy it will be to work with you. So unfortunately, it is hoop jumping in a way to check that you read things, to be like, yeah. Um, and the one of the other reasons often pitches get rejected is just because you had the same idea as a lot of other people. Like, there's a limited like amount of ideas in the world. Like for one of our anthologies, we've got like 5 mermaid stories, and you kind of for me, I try and get variety in an anthology. You got to pick whichever one you think is best.
Um, Sometimes and this is like this one is this one always hurts. Sometimes it's just there isn't an appropriate artist or writer to pair you with. Like there just isn't enough artists or isn't enough writers, or the writer wanted to work with a different artist was their number one pick and nothing else really fit your style. And that is like absolutely nothing. Like we had one of our highest ranked artists, one of the artists that we most were like, we love, we love, we love, we love. And we were not able to put them in Succulent because there wasn't a story that came through that fit that art style. And that just sucked. Like it
Yeah.
just sucked. And
Yeah.
it is like, but then the positive news is if you're one of those very rare cases, the chances are that the editors will get back in touch with you because
Mm,
I think that is what happened.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then they were able to work
And
on a later anthology.
yeah. And the hard point I wanted to try and cover is sometimes your work might not quite be there compared to all of the other people who submitted the anthology. Um, uh, the most common things, I said this in the email, but it's not on the PowerPoint. I'm lost. What was it? So the most common feedback I give for things is you don't have any backgrounds in your comics. Backgrounds can take artwork to the next level. It just makes it look more professional. It gives the character something to sit into. And I like to think of the background as an extension of the characters and the world that they live in. The other thing is um, same face, same direction in every single panel. This is an unfortunate thing that Webtoon really encourages. So people are just either from the sides, like on and then profile, especially like in erotica, like interesting angles of sex scenes are how people tend to grow as they get more into the medium. Uh, and people tend to do very side-on positions while they're still learning the craft. So that's something to look into if you want to develop there. Um, was there anything else, Ollie, like of
Just
sort of
that
main?
it isn't personal. We're not like it's not a personal like attack against you and your worth as an artist. It generally is just not this time. Like
Okay,
this
sorry, I meant
oh
uh
about
for
craft.
any key things that tend to come up that most people can take a look at. Uh
Yeah, not having erotica in your portfolio.
True, true. Like
That's
that
a
it
big
doesn't
one.
like if it's a horror anthology and you've got no horror, like and you want to do more horror anthologies, expand there. Um, the other point was learn a little bit of basic lettering, sort of a little bit cleaner lettering, normally with more of a bubble instead of a long uh like it can work, but only rarely, I think, long line of text with a long thin bubble around it doesn't look at I don't know. Editing is about personal preference. I don't like how it looks much of the time, but for zany stuff, it can work really well. So that's not like a completely all over thing, but generally, If you don't know anything about lettering, check out Eve Greenwood's lettering guide on itch.io. I linked it in my panel yesterday, and it's fantastic. There we go.
All right. So let's move along. So, but on the other hand of things, if you're an artist and you're looking to pitch to anthology, what is a red flag in an editor or a publisher? Really big one. They don't give you any details about when you're gonna get paid. Like that's sketchy. Or an IP grab. I sort of like mentioned that earlier in contracts. If they're looking to like take your IP, like don't work with them.
Mm,
I do think that some of these red flags are like some of these are for me a deal breaker to I won't work on this anthology at all. And some of these are something that you find during the working with them, and it can just lead you to think, okay, I probably won't want to work with them again because I don't think it like, sometimes it's like this is a deal breaker, and sometimes it's just like, okay, bearing in mind next time I don't want to do this. Are they vague about the concept? I think it's important for editors to know the demographic, who they want to read the book, what the book is going to be about. And even though, as we said earlier, when the themes come in, that's when the story pitches come in, that's when the anthology comes to life. I feel like there should be some sort of work that they put in to be like, this is what we're hoping to achieve. If they don't have any ideas,
mm. Yeah.
I think that's a red flag.
And also, I was thinking about this. Uh, um, uh, this one's up to you, but look them up on social media. And if you don't like what they post, don't
Mm.
work with them. Like, is this someone that you would feel proud to work with? Is this someone who promotes comics in a way that doesn't give you the ick? Like, do you feel like this actually is something you want your name attached to? Because like you might be able to make something with other people who you like better. Like comics is so much
Yeah,
time, try and work with people that don't make you want to crawl out your own skin. That's my personal preference.
that's a good one. I think another red flag is do they expect you to have the completed comic ready to go and to pitch with that? Because that shows like a lack of respect for your time as an artist, a lack of knowledge about the craft and how much time goes into that, especially
Yeah.
like for like an anthology of this. It's like, an anthology comic, like these one you have a short comic ready to go, like that seems like a red flag to me. And that does kind of leads into our next thing of do they know is the timeline they give realistic and shows a knowledge of comics? Which if they're asking you for that pitch, that comic straight up front in the pitch, that shows they don't know how much time goes into a comic. And Tab, sorry, I've yapped on that one, but like if you want to also jump in with any thoughts.
Oh no, I was just sort of thinking about uh, me staring off to the distance, thinking about. I think we give more feedback than most anthologies do into that artwork, which isn't for everyone. But some people have really enjoyed it, and it is a compliment that some of our like artists have given post the anthology. Um, it's hard to figure out when you're being too much as an editor. My general rule of thumb is to try and think about my goal is to figure out what this person is trying to say and how to get it as cleanly to the reader as possible. And to ask, like, okay, so this bit, I'm not sure a reader would understand this on a quick read through. Um, Especially in short stories, simplifying is needed, unfortunately. So I guess the question is, if you get feedback you don't like from a publisher, um, are you allowed to, what's the word for it, Ollie?
Pushback.
It's like a stut noise. We both don't know it. There we go. Um,
But yeah, I think this leads back to editors being collaborators. When an editor gives you feedback about something in your script, and they say, "Hey, I don't think this works, but maybe try this," and the suggestion they give you makes you throw up in your mouth, you don't have to do that. What they're responding to is there's a problem and they're offering you a potential solution. And as long as you solve that problem, it doesn't really matter if you are following the editor's solution or not. Because sometimes editors give you terrible solutions because they're not, necessarily writers. But what they're responding to is a problem. And so even if you don't like the way they've decided to solve it, you still need to solve it in your own way that the team agrees with works. And
mm,
generally, and so that's something to like think about with editors is like when and thinking about them as collaborators is that it's not necessarily like they're like change this to this thing. They are responding to there's a problem in your script, what can or problem with your art, and how you're gonna fix it. Like, and sometimes that's more technical stuff like you just misspell everything. You just need to swallow that pill and just do it. Like, but like if it's like a more sort of developmental idea, there is room for you to sort of discuss
Yeah.
and go
And
back and
sometimes
forth.
the feedback is me going, I'm sorry, these colors don't work in CMYK. Me like, please, that pink, it doesn't exist. Um, yeah, we do what we can. The last point, do they expect you to do all the promo? I remember doing the first anthology thinking, oh, there's like 20 artists, we'll all share it and we'll get like so much money like immediately, we'll like do it. And it was actually a slow grind. And I was like, oh, I really need to be on the social media a lot more than I thought I would have to really like push and get this actually through on Kickstarter. So yes, artists can help, but they shouldn't be the core of your advertising team. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're doing a Kickstarter, I think we were like one post a day for Kickstarter. Was that what we worked out?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can plan all of your posts out in advance and do a marketing plan. And that is actually a
Yeah.
really good idea to save you
Yeah.
time. It's just to do that horrible work up front.
Mm.
And then, like, Sunday night, you're in the shopping center and you can just like go, oh, I haven't done the post yet, bloop, and just sort of upload it.
Yeah.
Um, it
Yeah.
is annoying as
Yeah.
well that every single social media account uses
It's
different
different.
things.
We hate it. I use Buffer and specifically because the free account won't let you have like multiple things. It's like you can have three social medias on Buffer. I have Buffer under like a couple of different emails.
Um,
Yeah, it's not my
yeah.
forte. And so I really appreciated when we worked on Succulent that Ollie is like the copy master, social media, blurb, wizard. Yeah. So
Yeah, so it helps if you can write some decent copy as an editor, like because it's just a helpful skill to have
mm,
and
mhm.
to like, do social media and just like be able to like do some screen grabs. And that's why having that Dropbox with everything in the same place where like I could just go in and be like, okay, I need to screen grab this and blah blah blah, blah and like then I could just upload it all the images were there for Tab to just grab and all the copy was just in a document for Tab to grab and just like making stuff easier for the other editors, that kind of works. Okay, I'm gonna move us along. Oh, we're almost at the end. So our summary is just why do we do this?
Uh,
And the answer is because Ariel Vittori did some really amazing art. Like the answer is just we like comics and we like not safe
yeah,
for
because
work comics.
I do because it's cool because I like it. Because anthology are a reasonable sell to people that people will pick them up to be like, oh, I know a couple artists from this, or I like the art in some of those. Um, so it's a good way of like getting a variety of voices out there. And a lot of people take a hit on an anthology when they wouldn't buy a book from a single creator's work. So
I think I
uh,
like it because there were stories that you would read over and over again, and every time you were just like, "This is so good! Like this is such a good story. I'm so hyped for this. I think this eats." And as an editor, like, why do you edit stuff? It's
mm,
because like these were all stories that didn't exist prior to
mm,
like us writing some copy and putting it out into the world and saying, "Hey, does anybody want to do something about plants and it's sapphic and it's horny?" And all of these like artists trusted us, and especially like artists and writers who we had to pair up, and they trust us, and like these really fun creative partnerships came out of it, like these really fun scripts came out of it, these
mm.
glorious arts came out of it, like
And people can
hot
use
things
it on
came.
their CVs later, stuff like that.
It's a really good book, like, and
Mm,
just the joy of that sort of creation. It's like a bit more hands off, but it is just like the joy of the creation, the joy of also the relationships work, people like it's like it is a bit more like
mm.
line managing
Ooh.
editing, and it's like the joy of the relationships that are being formed. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like I didn't know if you could actually see my video, Ollie. let me hand up. We have an artist Discord that all of the artists current and like all the past anthologies is on that. It's quite a nice little networking thing because you can post about like what stuff you're doing. I think sometimes the internet can feel like a quite uh lonely place. Working as a cartoonist is very like you're working from home a lot of the time. Stuff that brings us together is really good. Um, and also, like, I got into specifically like erotica making because I felt like most of the projects were based in the US. And so I wanted to make something uh, closer to home. But um, I have zero national pride since Brexit and everything came out. So I did a European erotica comics anthology, my first one come together. Um, uh, so there's an element for me, like the political nature of making work that isn't safe for work. There we go. It's about portraying different bodies having sex, saying that anyone, yeah, saying that there's not a specific way you have to look to be sexy, and it's also about depicting acts that are lesser known or to show the beauty and romance in those acts. And that's why I do it. So hopefully I'll be able to keep going. Thank you.
I think also, yeah, we did have a thing when we were editing where you has a point where you're like, how many times have we had cunnilingus in this anthology? We need to vary it up. Or like, is there too much penetration? Like that is something that you
I
like get
really
into the weeds
overthink.
of as a not safe work editor. But like also like jumping off what you said, Tab, it is political. Queerness is political. Sex is political. Bodies are political, and we are in a puritanical sort of world at the moment where people are trying to clamp down on sex work
Mm,
and sort of like clamp down on queer expression, kink expression, sex expression, uh women or marginalized genders being able to like do what they want with their bodies is also stuff being clamped down on. And that's why I think it's more important than ever to make gay porn and like to like and be a freak, like, and just like do that stuff because I'm
mm,
like, this is like it is a form of liberation, it is a form of transgression, and like people hate it, and because it's good and because it shows people that there are different ways of being outside of the
mm,
status quo
mm.
and different ways of loving each other and different ways of existing in this world and in relation to your body. So that is why it's a political act and that's why we do it. Should we get ready for questions?
Yeah, it sounds great.
In conclusion, we're better together.
All right, let me find comments. So I've got everything on weird stuff so I can. Is Alexis around to unmute? And there we go. Clicked on the chat. Here we go. I found it. All right. Okay, someone even R Evil Oral Menace asked, great name. Do you have any tips for pitching an experimental piece where you don't have any examples of work you'd like to do? For example, if I'm primarily a black and white artist and want to do a super colorful piece for an anthology, should I do a little thumbnail with color? Should I reference artists' work is similar to my girl secret third thing? Um, I would say definitely not other people's artwork, because I would look at that and say, um, uh, that's not what you're doing, like but I also am hesitant to say um you should do that level of work for a pitch. If it's something that you want to do yourself to explore as an artist, fine. But for example, sometimes people will send in character drawings and stuff for a pitch. um and I always feel a bit bad if we don't take that story because I know of the level of work that went into that. Any thoughts, Ollie?
um Yeah, I think if you're primary, like I think for this specific example, if you're primarily a black and white artist, I do think having an example of color in your portfolio that you can link to would be better than linking to a reference artist.
Hmm.
I think if you do like a very rough thumbnail, like a color map, like, and don't put a lot of time and effort in it, but just something to show that you have an understanding of color, that is okay. But I
Hmm.
think it's like striking that balance for you about like not putting too much work in for you for something that may not pay off, but also showing that you understand that there's that gap in your portfolio. I think for me, I think if it's something that also like if it's not just this one anthology, if it's something that like, oh, actually I might want to be doing more color in my work going forward, I think it might be time to just do a piece in color and like have that up on the portfolio.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
maybe not that exact piece, but just like some just experiment in a fun, different way.
Yes, I found out what the word was. The word is stet, STET. It just means let it stand. Yeah.
Ah,
There we go.
yes.
So I've decided to, in context, if someone uh, says that you have editor notes and you just put stat underneath, that means do not accept it. Um, other questions are someone asked short stories, I need less plot and what I was trying to write it down. Um, was that
Um, if it was me, I was saying less plot and more porn probably. But like, but that's
uh
because I just this is a personal editorial preference for me. So
mm,
this is not everybody.
yeah.
Because we did disagree with this when we were talking about stuff. But like, I personally don't want to read reams and reams and reams and reams of lore and backstory for like a short story. Like, I just feel like that's gonna be really complicated to like distill in a satisfying way into like a short piece.
Hmm. The one I had on short stories is I like it's the Japanese style of storytelling with the 4 points, which is that setup, intrigue, twist, and then resolution. And that's sort of my favorite for a short story. That instead of being like that arc the of like conflict needs to reach its point. What do we mean by conflict? Anyway, well, that's a whole other panel. Me being like, this story needs a little bit of a twist, and that twist can be just a different way of looking at what you've seen before, or a joke, or like comedy and horror have really similar parallels of how they set up the tension of a thing. And I think erotica does too. Um,
Yeah.
Happy to. I think we've got another question here.
Yeah, I've managed to work to chat.
Yeah.
Is having a Discord server good for a more scaled back operation, i.e. more of a zine style anthology? I'm tempted to make one, but I don't know if I can handle modding lol. Um, okay, as somebody who is a crotchety old fart who hates technology, I just think save your own piece and don't make a Discord server. Like, but that is just me being a crank. It could be a really great social social sort of thing, but I think it depends like your own personal tolerance for social media and like your own wavelength for Discord. I think it's like a nice. I mean, I say this. I know Tab, you've straight up have the Discords, but like as for like several different anthologies, it's not super. I think my fear is always, what
It's
if
not
it
that
really pops
active.
off in
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
I you
I
don't
don't think
have
it's a
to.
good organizing tool. I like once upon a time I was like thinking about is there a way to like decentrify the editing thing? Like so this idea of being like, okay, so if you have like an anthology where everyone could comment on each other's artwork and like co-edit something together, and I got really like oh, this is a cool idea. And then I went, but it takes so much time. Like lots of people, they're like, I'm just trying to draw art. I don't want to like look at other people's art and do all of this. So what it tends to happen is that editing task then does come down to a couple of people in the end. So it doesn't quite work out. Anyway, that's a side note.
Yeah. I think
Um,
if you enjoy a Discord and you think it would be helpful, you can do it, but I don't think it should feel like it's something that you should have to do in order to run an anthology. And I also think don't be offended if artists don't want to join
mm, mm,
because they might also be at their limit of their own personal limit of how many Discords or like social groups
yeah.
that they're in.
But when it works, it is cool when people post up like a whip or something and everyone comments on it and talks about it. It's really good for hype for the artists
Mhm.
involved or just to see what everyone else is working on. Um, I will sometimes post screen grabs of like a particularly good bit of a panel to like preview the other artists about what's going on. Uh, oh, we got another question. How do we get started and recruit people to your anthology if you're new? Should I wait until I have more reach? Always wanted to make more anthologies. So sorry, it's been answered before. Yes, how do you get people to be on board? I think it's talking to people. Obviously, the Cartoonist Co-op United, you've got a set of people in a Discord there that you can put feelers out like, hey, who wants to be on this, and you might be able to find someone who has a bit more reach. I mean, one more person will always have more reach than just you, and see if they can help create the team that then creates more. Um,
I
yeah,
think also um start small, like I think is the way. Like I don't think you should, if you like haven't done any editing, you don't feel like you have like a large sort of reach or following. I don't feel like going straight into I'm gonna do like a 12 contributor anthology and we're gonna raise like 100K on Kickstarter. I don't think that's like the right vibe. I think, keeping it as like a small zine, maybe it's just like people get a free copy of it, like via
mm,
download, and that's it's something you like just mark together on Canva, and like you just have to like start building small with those sort of community efforts and like building your sort of reputation that way. And it can be something like, we've mentioned before, like networks of friends, like that's always helpful. If you like have friends who are artists, you can always be like, hey, do you think you might be interested in this? Or if not, do you know someone who might be interested in this? And that's also like that word of mouth is also a way to build it outside of just like throwing a social media post into the ether.
yeah, and I also think people are quite hungry for anthologies, and there are a couple of places that if anything's open for submissions to an anthology, you can put work up there. Um, uh, yeah, and just see where it gets you. I kind of went straight into Come Together because I had experience with my own webcomic and crowdfunding that and publishing that. Um, so that was very helpful. So that was my like little way in. So good luck finding what way in it is for you. Yeah, I think that's all of our questions. So Ollie, do you have any closing stuff you want to say?
Wait a second, let me get back to our final sort of like slide, one last slide for us. Right. Yeah, so thank you. I've put up the details of myself, Tab, and also Nikki, our third co-editor who couldn't be here today. So please feel free to take a look at our websites, take a look at our social medias. Um, I yeah, I'm very much still available for freelance editing works. If anybody's like, oh, I want to work with this clown, always hit me up. But also, are we working on any projects that we want to tease, Tab? We got anything exciting in the pipeline that we want to talk
I
about?
so I'm still working on figuring out co-editors for the next projects, but once those are in place, I'll start like putting something together. Yeah. Um,
Amazing.
yes, and
And
if anyone wants to buy a copy of Succulent, you can get it on discordcomics.com/store. It'll be under anthologies, and you can also get it on itch.io in digital format as well. Hope you enjoy. Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you so much for like coming to the talk. And yeah, we both have our own extensive independent comics that we do as well. Like Tab has Infernal Relations, which is amazing, which was your last comic that you came out with. And I just had Cuckening, which is actually available at Diskette Press, so you can actually get it in the US, which is a wild time. So yeah, if you're interested in checking out more of our work, please do. I think Nikki's latest comic is very highly Kirkus starred, reviewed story about sisterhood for the middle grade market. So if you look at something like that's something that you can like pass along to a juvenile cousin. Nikki has you covered with some really great comics as well. So please do check out all of our stuff. And thank you so much for coming by. And yeah, go ahead and make comics and zines.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone for coming. And thank you both, Tab and Ollie, for giving us a wonderful presentation. And I'm gonna drop right in the chat link to the Cartoonists United um accounts, as well as a link to the Oops All Comic Scene, which is for sale and helps support the co-op, which helps us put on these events in general. Um, and I think that's pretty much everything. So I am going to start wrapping up. But yes, thank you both so much for coming.